pain is just a stimulation of the C fibers, says the materialist. We dualists say, and I want this for the record.
We dualists, right? There couldn't be one dualist. There have to be at least two.
I'm not a solipsist. I think there are many of us. We are not. I am not alone, but I could be alone. I'm not
a dualist to the
prepared
end.
to argue at this point that further thesis. I, as a dualist, know that I'm in pain, and my pain is something over and above the C fiber stimulation.
I share your pain.
Do you share my feeling? Do you share my thought? Here, you.
No.
Who was it? In Descartes' "O spirit, O flesh." That was one of the questions and replies. Descartes, you remember? Who is it? Who was "O spirit, O flesh"? You remember your Descartes and Malebranche, was it?
Oh, was it Mal?
One of his dialogues, or
He has, I don't recall.
but you remember there were a whole bunch of objections and
Oh,
replies.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
So you, as O flesh, say pain is just
C
stimulation
fibers,
of the C fibers in the brain, which leads to cries
Right.
and jumping up and down and so on. And I say, no, there's more than that. And how do I say that? Well, for one thing, I say that the pain of an octopus, they don't have C fibers, but they do feel pain.
Oh, you're convinced of that. Good. Good for you, Jerry.
It took a little reach of imagination to come to that, but I was able to finally empathize with octopuses.
Oh, from
You've
your scuba
never gotten
diving?
beyond puppies.
From your scuba diving? I just use puppies as an example because that'll appeal to everybody. But
I have great difficulty eating octopus. What is it called in Spanish? Octopus? When you get it from a restaurant?
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, what's the
Spanish word?
Yeah, what's the name for it when you go to an Italian restaurant and you have
calamari.
or the
Calamari.
Calamari.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have great empathy with calamari.
Is this from your scuba diving?
Yes, I've seen them and I see how they.
Yeah. See, now that's what it's going to take. Now, of course, this is the big crisis for me, right? Much more than just my own little personal pain. It's the, what I almost literally considered to be the greatest holocaust of all time, of other animals on an ongoing basis. I want fervently to remain true to that cause, and yet, as you were pointing out earlier, shouldn't I simply defer to, or not necessarily defer, but shouldn't I simply recognize that other people have different desires from me? Well, now, of course, if it were a matter of their having mistaken beliefs,
Right.
There we have grounds for discussion. That is, until we get to the point that Jack was alluding to earlier, where objectivity itself goes by the board. Just dealing now with values,
Right.
and assuming that we do have some kind of materialist reality there, couldn't we could still have discussions about, well, what are the facts of the matter here? And somebody who doesn't care about, doesn't see anything wrong with eating calamari, no, I can't say doesn't see anything wrong, doesn't care, desires to do it, and has no bad feelings at all, no aversion to doing it whatsoever, I could point out to that person, yes, but that comes from animals who are put through great pain and their lives, prematurely
Let me
cut
just
off.
ask about what about milk? What about cheese?
Oh yeah, I'm a vegan now.
What does that mean?
That means no animal products either, not just not eating the animals.
When I look at the cows out here having a wonderful life in the fields, being milked every day, I see no moral offense.
The cows you see are most likely not the cows who produce the milk and cheese you eat. Because if you can see them, they're being treated exceptionally well,
Well,
with
Stearns
literally
farm here.
exceptionally, because 99 point whatever percent of
The milk cows?
and the egg laying chickens would probably never even see the light of day. That's what factory farming. See, so here's a perfect example right here. You are ignorant of a big fact that is highly relevant to your eating behavior and to your preferences. And so at that level, we can still have a conversation, right? We can still have a disagreement,
Right.
which is theoretically resolvable. But the point is, if we get to a place where you are fully aware of the same facts that I'm aware of about the production of animal foods, and even so, you just don't give a damn, then I don't know that there's anything more for me to say other than that, you know, I wish it were otherwise, or if I care enough about the animals, I could even, of course, try to prevent you from eating them, or get, you know, I could try. I don't have to respect you.
But let me just take, Jack gets eggs from my daughter, who raises chickens. If you went to her farm, I guess we'll say, you'd see chickens very well taken care of.
Okay.
Warm in the winter, sheltered from ravaging foxes and things. They have a very happy life.
Okay.
If you go to Stearns Farm up on the hill, I pass it every day, the cows there are happy, and the milking is very humane. And would you be prepared to say, all right, when it comes to Diana's eggs and Stearns milk, I will enjoy their products because I have no negative feelings about that? Would you make those exceptions?
Well, I'd have to know more, because, you know, even I am still learning the facts of these matters, having been an urban guy, right? But for example, I learned things like this recently. In the production of milk, for example, what do you think happens to the offspring of those cows that keep producing that milk? How do you think they are able to keep producing milk year after year? Isn't it by getting pregnant and giving birth?
I don't know.
Well, it is. So what happens to the offspring? I'll tell you what happens to them. The male offspring immediately go to veal production. They are put into, because otherwise it's not economically viable, you know.
Okay.
They are immediately confined, you know, in a space where they can't even turn around for their entire lives. And then, while still babies, they are thankfully slaughtered.
And
All
maybe
right.
not
See?
very painlessly either.
Right. Okay. So so it's more complicated. See, it's not just, oh, there are the cows out ruminating in the field, you know. Furthermore, the mother cows,
That's true, you know.
the mother cows do not get to be with their young, because they're taken away so that the milk will be diverted to human consumption. And, you know, it's on and on. Now, when it comes to the chickens, let's see now.
Hers are free range.
Okay, and when they no longer are laying eggs, well, what happens to the, let's see, she has to, in order to keep the production going, some of the eggs will have to be permitted to hatch so she can have new chickens, right? No?
They just keep laying. And I'm just wondering.
Well, where do those
know,
chickens come from then?
I know in the case of women breastfeeding, women who are giving milk will continue to give milk as long as they are nursing. And wet nurses are women who continue to produce milk because of the sucking of their. So I'm not sure you're right when you say they have to occasionally get pregnant again I don't know. This is a factual matter. But
Okay,
let's assume
yeah.
for a moment
Right.
that they're able to give milk. Now, you might say, well, what about the beginning stage?
Mm-hmm.
In order for them to start producing milk, they do have to have a calf.
And it has to be taken away because
And
of
the calf has to be taken away,
Right.
and the calf,
if it's male.
if it's a male, it's either neutered or turned into veal. If it's neutered, then eventually it will be slaughtered, which is
Yeah.
nasty.
And what happens to the milk cow when it stops giving a certain amount of milk? Gets slaughtered.
I don't know. Maybe they just die of old age, but maybe they're see, in the case of Diana's chickens, when they're no longer laying, I've never. Well, no, actually they do, because they also slaughter the chickens.
Yeah.
He does it very quickly. It just cuts off their heads rapidly.
Right. No problem there.
No pain.
And that's
they run
okay.
around for a
And I wonder how old they are. You know, are they in their prime, or you know, what's the point? The vast majority of animals that are slaughtered for
So
food
here's the question.
are babies.
If we could do this humanely, if we could get our meat, our
Humanely is
milk,
totally begging the question. You have to tell me exactly what you
if
mean.
we get our milk
Yeah.
without any animal suffering. Suffering is your
No, suffering
Bottom
and
line.
premature death, because most animals are killed when they're babies. Is that okay? As long as it's
gets into
painless?
The problem what we think about death. If it's a painless death, is it still a loss?
Well, are you applying this to humans as well now?
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm thinking.
you have any doubts on the matter in terms of your own assessment of that?
If I were suddenly in the next 10 seconds to painlessly drop dead,
Yeah.
would that be a loss? Not to me, of course. I think.
What do you mean, of course, not to you? Of course, not to you. Of course it's a loss to you.
Well,
just because
there's
you're
a
not around-
problem about who it's a loss to.
Only if you get very nitpicky metaphysical.
Because there's no more me. So it's
Well, there
not-
wasn't to begin with, Jerry. Remember?
Well, then there's no problem at all.
No.
But there is obviously a loss to my children, to Jack.
No, but come on, seriously. You don't think there's a loss to the person who dies?
Well, Nagel has a long discussion on this. It's not easy to.
It's not easy to articulate, but it's not easy to articulate the experience of red either.
If it's a young person with high promise,
Oh, Jerry.
but if it's a young person with
Jerry,
hopeless
tisk,
life,
tisk, tisk, tisk. The way
totally-
you're talking so objectively about this subjective fact here.
Well, I'm just thinking of someone who is a child hopelessly in pain, with no chance of.
Well, that's a
kind of
different
decent
situation.
life,
That's a different situation.
and it dies.
Yes.
Um,
We say it's a blessing.
we say it's a blessing.
All right, and we don't have to analyze this either. We could if we wanted to, but if a young person dies, we say this is unfortunate, right? And we're not just talking about the survivors.
No, we're talking about a future
Yeah,
that the person was.
yeah. And just because the person isn't around to tell us that it was bad doesn't mean it wasn't bad for that person. And of course the animals can't even tell us ahead of time that that they would think it would be bad. That's to say they can't tell us in words that we could understand, but we can just watch their behavior if they're in the presence of imminent death. In fact, there's a videotape on my vegan website which shows you a couple of cows being led to slaughter, and you can see quite clearly that they know what's going on.
The famous novel or book of Sinclair Lewis was.
Yeah.
The slaughterhouses, and you could
Right.
hear
Upton Sinclair,
Upton
the
Sinclair.
jungle.
the cries and tremblings
Right.
as they were led to slaughter.
Yeah.
We talked about having lunch.
Is this all making you think about how hungry you
Yes,
are?
I'm looking forward to a nice
Yeah.
steak. Would you like to have lunch? I mean, for
Oh,
me,
I way past. Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
is it too late?
Oh, do they close at some point?
No,
for-
no. The place right down here is open.
You want to go just get a sandwich at the
No, I was
general
thinking-
store? What, the Mansfield restaurant?
Yeah, that's open. What?
Would you like to do that, Joe?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't mean.
If they give you, if they have some, oh, well,
We ate there. Yeah, there's
They
always
have
something a
vegetarian dishes.
vegan
get
can
salads.
palate. Yeah.